And now, an 8th special presentation.
In this edition of Artbeat Nation, we mourn the loss of love.
The kind of narrative arc of love looks like is something that we've inherited over centuries.
We discover where art meets agriculture.
Art Farm seemed like kind of strange and adventurous.
The iconic Hollywood sign comes to life.
Hollywood sign stands for dreams.
And a photographer shows us that the past is often just an arm's length away.
Everyone thinks that we knocked everything down and put it back up, but you know, a lot of the rich history is still standing.
It's all ahead on this edition of Artbeat Nation. Funding for Artbeat Nation was made possible by contributions to AIT from viewers like you. Thank you. The Progress of Love is an international exhibit that focuses on the different stages of romance, from infatuation to passion to heartbreak. Each aspect of love is explored concurrently in 3 different museums in St. Louis, Missouri, Houston, Texas, and Lagos, Nigeria. At the Pulitzer Foundation for the Arts in St. Louis, the exhibit focuses on the loss of love.
It seemed an interesting question, to pursue in an exhibition. What part of love is timeless and universal, and what aspect of love is historical and cultural?
The Progress of Love as an exhibition is unique in that it takes place in 3 separate venues: the Pulitzer in St. Louis, the Menil in Houston, and the Center for Contemporary Art in Lagos, Nigeria. Each museum explores a unique aspect of love. The Pulitzer focuses on the end of love and its aftermath.
We're in the main gallery at the Pulitzer, and it is occupied by a very large work called Take Care of Yourself by the French artist Sophie Calle. She had received an email letter from her boyfriend breaking up with her and explaining that he could no longer satisfy the conditions that they'd agreed upon, main condition being that he was dating 3 women prior to her arrival. She made it clear she refused to be the 4th. If they were going to be together, it would just be the 2 of them. He let her know that he could no longer live up to her expectations, and so he needed to break up with her, and he signed this letter, Take Care of Yourself. So to that end, she forwarded the email to over 100 women, and this group of women are captured in various ways throughout the process by Sophie Calle. And these range from, her mother, an etiquette advisor, teenagers, friends who worked in various professions. There's a parrot named Brenda. She gave the email to a sharpshooter who set it on the target range and then shot out every instance of the word love appearing in the letter. So here we see sharing this letter as a kind of cathartic exercise. And this is exactly the type of thing that we all do. So when we lose love, we call upon our friends and others to to kind of help us purge that loss, mourn that loss. This is a piece that was produced by the artist Zina Saro-Wiwa, and she lost her father, who was a very famous activist. His name was Ken Saro-Wiwa, about 17 years ago when he was put to death by the Nigerian government. Zina found it very difficult to mourn the loss of her father because he'd been turned into something that was kind of, in a way, his memory was kind of owned by everybody and felt very distant from her. And she talks about ultimately starting to use the medium of video to explore this question of loss. And so in the first instance, the piece right behind me called Mourning Class, she hires a number of Nollywood actresses. So Nollywood is a huge movie industry. It's about the 3rd largest industry in the world after Hollywood and Bollywood. And she hires these actresses to cry on cue for her, to literally kind of perform this ritual of mourning for her. So their instructions are to look into the camera, to cry, and to end this performance by smiling or laughing. But this is really heightening the idea that, cultures need rituals to perform acts like grief. So she, after she did this work, she did another piece that's featured in our exhibition called Zaragoza Morning. And this is a video piece where she actually puts herself in the same position as actresses. She challenges herself to see if she can sit in front of the camera, cry, and break the cry by smiling or laughing. And in fact, she can't follow her own rules. She starts to talk shortly after staring into the camera. She talks about how the loss of her father and her inability to mourn her father has actually made it difficult for her to pursue romantic relationships. And so for me, this was a really important piece in this exhibition. These two pieces were in relation to one another because they show both the convention and the lived experience of loss. This is a piece called Addio del Passato by Yinka Shonibari. It's a video projection that he just made in the last year. And it's a song from La Traviata. It's a song of lament. And so what he does is he takes these kind of historical givens, these cultural artifacts, and he restages them with new characters or new costumes. He gives us kind of fresh spin on them. But another thing that he's doing very powerfully, and the reason he is featured so centrally in this project, is that he's showing us that, you know, our sense of loss, our whole concept of loss, the idea of loss, is not something, you know, we start from scratch the minute we're born, and then we kind of can build up this kind of notion of what is loss. The very notion of what is loss is embedded in things like opera songs lamenting the loss of one's lover, or you know, paintings showing the kind of death, the suicide of a young poet. And what he's doing is showing us that loss is murky and infuses other aspects of our life. Our very notion of loss, what the kind of narrative arc of love looks like, is something that we've inherited over centuries, and we can tinker with it, we can reshape it, we can mold it, we can push it in a little bit of a different direction. But we have to start with what we've inherited. I hope our visitors will think about how their notions of love are formed, informed, and change, and to think about how you know, the traditions we inherit, literature, film, music, and the ones that we are in the process of inventing, including technology like text messaging and emailing, how these things actually create the conditions for us to experience love and to express it.
To learn more about the Progress of Love exhibits in all the locations, visit progressoflove.com. Farms feed our bodies, and some say art feeds the soul. And in Nebraska, just west of Omaha, an artist's residency program called Art Farm is taking care of both.
There are images and sounds we usually associate with life in the heartland. But there are also images and sounds that make some places unique.
Here's space, do what you want, and you don't have to worry about someone looking over your shoulder that you are doing this. You can experiment, and I encourage experimentation.
Welcome to the Art Farm. Created in 1993, this artistic enclave sits on half of Ed Dady's farm a couple hours west of Omaha. Ed's nephew works the production side of this land, growing corn and soybeans. And while that farm work goes on, visiting artists spend their time appreciating the rhythms of rural life.
That's sort of typical of the way artists work around here. It's like long periods of thought, you know, trying to go through the process. So it's a reason why I sort of like recommend they come for 2 months, because it takes 1 month to get through all the other stuff. Then they work.
On this late spring morning, a poet and 2 painters have immersed themselves in the farm's creative atmosphere.
On the website, Art Farm seemed like kind of strange and adventurous, like not like your average residency.
29-year-old Rebecca Johnson is an impressionist artist from Asheville, North Carolina. The Art Farm gives her a window on a world that's different from her usual environment.
There's something just strange and amazing about walking down a dirt road and just being able to see for miles and knowing that like you can walk and walk all day and you'll be on that same dirt road and it'll still pretty much look the same.
24-year-old Amy DePlacido traveled 1,600 miles from Middleton, Massachusetts. She found the pace of the farm fueled her passion for linear art.
I think it really slows you down here. I think that's really important to learn too, especially coming from the city and just knowing like, you know, that hustle and bustle, like it doesn't really matter.
The geography also inspired her artwork of straight lines.
And seeing those lines of cornfields and soybean, and you can see right down and everything's placed in a grid. So I'm very inspired by these man-made, like geographical lines on the landscape.
Sycamore, lone mare under the arced limb. Here, a list of yellow things.
For poet Meredith Clark of Seattle, the art farm offered a new look at her view of writing.
I think it's been actually a real life-changing experience in a lot of ways. Learning an awful lot about the way that I work. You know, I think a lot of people make the mistake sometimes of coming to a residency and assuming that they're going to churn something out.
She also had to learn the process of printing her poetry, the old-fashioned way.
This has probably taken me about an hour and a half or 2 hours, and it's just 6 lines of type.
The art farm has welcomed artists from 10 different countries. Space is limited to fewer than 24 residencies a year, and in exchange for room and board, the artisans help work the farm. A current project is restoring old barns which see duty as studios and living quarters. On this day, an old bathtub became a spa of sorts.
It gets hot here during the day, so we're going to fill it up when we need to cool off. Jump in the tub, go back to our studio and work. We're already doing that with the hose occasionally, but this will be better.
The landscape has become a repository of artwork completed by previous residents. Carol and Bernard Smith say they make the pilgrimage from Indiana on a regular basis to see what's new.
I remember when Ed first started this, it was like, how is he going to get people to come here? But it just never stops. I mean, it just seems like every year he's got more and more and more, and it's wonderful.
Perhaps it's the liberation of open space. Perhaps it's the serenity to be found here. Ed and the artist will tell you, it's inspiration without encumbrance.
It's the experience that you can try something, you can experiment, not worry about failing.
To learn more about Art Farm, visit artfarmnebraska.org. Next, we learn the story behind the iconic Hollywood sign. The symbol of the stars inspires, causes despair, and helps remind us of the rich history of Los Angeles.
Hooray for Hollywood, that holy super Coney Hollywood. They come from Chillicote's and Paducahs with their bazookas to get their names up in line.
It could be considered the biggest star of them all and recognized worldwide.
If there is an American icon, that's it. If you stop and think about what is an American icon, Statue of Liberty, Sears Tower, the Arch in St. Louis, Golden Gate Bridge, and in Los Angeles, the Hollywood sign.
A landmark, a symbol, and for some, a talisman.
I think it's what it stands for. Hollywood sign stands for dreams. And people who come and have come to Hollywood came here because they had a dream. They wanted to do something.
The Hollywood sign, an accidental monument complete with history, mystery, and tragedy. Take the story of this Hollywood hopeful.
There was a young lady by the name of Peg Entwistle, and she moved out here in, I believe, the early 30s. She moved out from New York. She was an actress, and she came out to seek fame and fortune in the movies. And she happened to stay with her uncle, who had a house just down below the sign here. So she did what most actresses do, made the rounds with all of the casting auditions and so on and so forth, and then did what most actresses also do, which is go sit next to the phone waiting for it to ring. Well, she sat next to the phone for quite some time, and it didn't ring, and she became a little despondent. So one evening, she climbed up the hill, went up to the Hollywood sign. Someone had left a ladder behind the H on the sign, and she crawled up on the ladder, got up on the H, and jumped to her death. That's the story of that. The irony of the story is the next morning, the phone started ringing. True story.
But not all tales surrounding the allure of the sign end in heartbreak.
At one time, when they put up the sign to sell the land, they had light bulbs around each one of the letters. And the myth is, or maybe it's legend, the fact that there was a man who lived below the sign down here, was alone, and he took it upon himself that every time one of the lights went out on the Hollywood sign, he would go up there and replace it. And his reasoning was that every time a light goes out on the Hollywood sign, a star dies. So if he puts the light back up there, another star is born.
And you can't prove it.
Can't prove it, can't disprove it either.
Hooray for Hollywood! That screwy ballyhooey Hollywood!
The lights are gone, but the glamour remains. Approaching a 90th birthday, the career of this Tinseltown treasure far surpasses them all, though it's not always been top billing.
Well, the Hollywood sign, of course, was put up in the 20s, and it was originally Hollywood Land, because it was a sign talking about all these homes that were going to be built around here, most of whom are still here. And then after that, after the development was done, and the developers, I think, eventually went out of business, they just left the Hollywood Land sign standing there. The next thing you know, the land falls off, just leaving the word Hollywood. And that's where it all began. People took it as meaning Hollywood is place, state of mind, what have you. And then after that, there were several occasions when the sign had to be refurbished. One letter would fall down. A lot of graffiti and vandalism in those days. And that doesn't happen anymore because there are cameras all around you and sensors all around you. And if you trip one of those sensors, you'll hear a speaker say, "You're trespassing, get off the land, park rangers are on their way," so on and so forth. Every once in a while there's a few wild animals still live up here. Every once in a while somebody will trip the sensors and send everything into a state of disarray. But anyway, the sign has been rebuilt, and now, of course, we're very pleased that the Sherwin-Williams people have agreed to help us again. They were the ones that came to us in 2005 and said, "We'd love to paint the Hollywood sign." Well, that was, this is 2012, so that was several years ago. And so they're coming back now, and what they're going to do to the sign this time is 10 times as much as they did last time, because the sign has to almost be stripped down to its bare self and then start over again with this new process that they have, an acrylic paint, and it's also environmental friendly at the same time. The original sign was just like almost pasteboard, and of course when it fell down, then they re-erected the next sign. They made it out of wood, and wood, of course, also has a problem with weather and wind and snow and smog and what have you. So then they put it up for the last time. It's made of corrugated steel. So it's going to stand there for a while.
And while the sign may be secure, caring for it takes some stunt work.
It's very dangerous, both to get there, and if you did happen to get up on the sign, it's even more dangerous, because the sign wasn't built for people to climb all over it.
Which makes those guys that are working on it right now pretty brave.
Well, I think you'll find that everything that's happening up there has happened because somebody had to bring something from down below up here, because there's no water, there's no power. So everything they have to work with, they had to bring up here. And some of it they brought up by helicopter. So they had all the necessary materials to work with. Also, there's not that much space in front of the sign. And when you go up closer yourself and take a look at it, you'll see that there's just like a little walkway in front of where the letters are. So there's not a lot of space to maneuver around in.
Yet this facelift will provide Sherwin-Williams an impressive credit.
Sherwin-Williams, I think, certainly will benefit from it. We hope that they do, because they do have the distinction of saying, we painted the Hollywood sign. And you say that, everybody knows immediately what you're talking about.
To learn more about the Hollywood sign, visit hollywoodsign.org. Photographer Abraham Garza spends his lunch hours roaming the streets of downtown Houston, finding the locations of old postcards and creating new images that blend the historical with the modern. His photographs remind us that history is often hiding in plain sight.
Houston Press, how may I direct your call?
I'm actually the receptionist at the Houston Press. I've worked there since 1999. I started collecting postcards, in early maybe 2000, 2001, and the idea of going out to shoot them with their current locations just fascinated me. First photo montage I did was a photograph of me and my mother. We're standing in front of our house in South Houston. She passed away 3 years ago, so it was very sentimental to take this shot, and it's really what catapulted this entire project. When I found the picture of our own building, the entire office was buzzing because nobody really knew what it was before. So this is the Houston Press building. This picture is from 1965. You can see the Exxon building behind it. It was built in 1963, so it's relatively new at the time. And it used to be a Gilman Pontiac car dealership. And now this is where I work. Bonnevilles used to be sold right out of my office. A lot of times what works with the photo is lining up the existing architecture. If I have a photo and it has a window or an awning, I try to line it up right. It's all about patience. The First Methodist United Church has been around since the 30s, and I think every 15 minutes or every half hour, the church bells still ring. And so 2 blocks away at the Houston Press building, you hear that all day long. I mean, sometimes I'll take a picture and it takes me 15 minutes just to get the shot. Whenever there's a photo with people, you definitely get the date around when it was. People are in suits, people are in dresses, it's totally different. This was taken on Main Street outside the Rice Hotel, and I believe 1965. You got the old defunct Houston Press, which back then was a daily paper, cafeteria, coffee house, and Main Street. I would say I've become obsessed with it. There will be a day where I'll come across a photograph and I need to take it as soon as I can. All right, this is Jones Hall. It won an award in 1967, the year it was built. Jones Hall itself is literally unchanged, and the Gulf building behind it has a 45-foot sign that could be seen from all over Houston. The original picture was taken in 1952, and I mean, there are no skyscrapers in downtown, For a minute, the tallest building we had was City Hall, and that it's visible in the photo. And I guess in 1952, they thought it was okay to not have a fence to protect the people walking over the bridge. And as you can see, it's also existing construction. It's the exact same, the exact pillars, everything. Courtland Place, just minutes from downtown. This one's a little tricky, but luckily I have long arms. It's a private community, virtually unchanged since the day this photo was taken. Houston is developing in a way where everyone thinks that we knock everything down and put it back up, but a lot of the rich history is still standing. You just have to look for it.
You can see a lot more of Abraham Garza's photo montages at historicproject.com. For more arts and culture, visit azpbs.org/artbeat, where you'll find featured videos and information on the Arizona art scene. Funding for Artbeat Nation was made possible by contributions to AIT from viewers like you. Thank you.